many of you are familiar with Lil Abner? Anyone? Quite a few of you. Lil Abner is a cartoon character or comic strip character, is maybe not as well known as some of the others, but there's that play, the musical, right? Has anyone actually been in Lil Abner the musical? Yeah, you have.
My wife was raising her hand.
Yeah, it's very popular on the high school circuit, I think. But this comic strip Lil Abner by Al Cap ran, for about 4 decades and was enormously popular. It's really difficult to overstate how popular it was when the lead characters got married or introduced this popular Shmoo character. It was on the cover of Time magazine. The real measure of the popularity of any comic strip ever is merchandising and sponsorship opportunities. So you've got, Lil Abner and Daisy May, singing the praises of Superior's fully cooked ham. It's fully cooked.
And this is not commentary. This is an actual ad.
Right.
He's not making fun of Superior's fully cooked ham. He's shilling for it.
He loves it. And presumably got a free box and stuff at Christmas. So you got Lil Abner doing Al Cap doing this comic strip, Lil Abner, that's kind of satirical, humorous comic strip about these sort of hillbilly characters. Running at the same time, of course, you've got many other iconic comic strips, including Dick Tracy by Chester Gould. Dick Tracy, of course, is sort of famous for having been gruesomely violent. And it's even though it's in this kind of stark noir cartoony style, in that last panel, I don't know if you can make it out on the screen, Dick Tracy is definitely getting shot in the head. He did get better.
But many people did not.
Yeah, many did not.
Many died.
Yeah, lots of gruesome death. And, like in this panel, this is a pretty classic thing where you've got, Dick Tracy, who's this real sharpshooter, expertly shooting 2 perfectly circular bullet holes into the hands of this guy who's been carrying a bomb. Dick Tracy was well known for this kind of gruesome cartoon violence, and Al Cap parodied it in his comic strip Lil Abner. He created a parody of Dick Tracy called Fearless Fosdick, which debuted in 1942. And he loved making fun of Dick Tracy. He loved it so much that sometimes this Fearless Fosdick would just run for weeks and weeks and weeks as a strip within his comic strip. It was presented as being Lil Abner's favorite comic strip. Here you've got someone who's got the chops, the sort of artistic chops to kind of approximate or parody Chester Gould's very precise drawing style, and he's also making some kind of commentary on it. And what's really bizarre is that Fearless Fosdick by itself became popular, so popular that there were Fearless Fosdick comic books collecting the adventures of Fearless Fosdick. Fearless Fosdick, the ultimate measure of success, even sponsored certain products like Wild Roots Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Amazingly, there was even briefly a Fearless Fosdick television program in a kind of super marionettations, whatever that's called.
Yes.
If you've seen
Super Marionation.
Super Marionation, if you've seen Thunderbirds or Supercar or any of those puppet TV shows in that same style. Amazingly, there was briefly a Fearless Fosdick TV show. So you've got this parody of Dick Tracy that becomes successful in its own right, which Chester Gould, the author of Dick Tracy, apparently tolerated more than he loved. And Gould himself was sort of parodied as Lester Gooch, the author of Fearless Fosdick. Okay, so this is already getting a little complicated. And then Will Eisner, the artist of the Spirit, observes all of this happening and for various reasons decides to parody this situation himself in the Spirit. So in 1947, Will Eisner does a story called Lil Adam. Lil Adam is about Al Slap, the parodied version of Al Cap, who does a comic strip about hillbillies called Lil Adam. And in Lil Adam, this gets really complicated. In Lil Adam, Al Slap parodies Nick Stacy by Hector Gould as Fearful Fuznik. So it's this mystery about, is Hector Gould, the author of Fearful Fuznik, out to get Al Slap, the author of Lil Adam, and so on. So Will Eisner, of course, again, someone with a lot of craft sort of parodying this whole situation, approximating the drawing styles of these other cartoonists and creating this kind of satirical mystery about this whole situation. But again, you've got Fearful Fuznik, which is a parody of Fearful Fosdick, which is a parody of Dick Tracy. Okay, now it gets more complicated. So, around the time that this gets published, 1947, a young cartoonist named Harvey Kurtzman, who at the time was doing a series of one-page filler comics for the company that would become Marvel, does his parody of Will Eisner's parody of Al Cap's parody of Dick Tracy in this Hey Look strip, in which he, in every panel, changes his drawing style to parody these other drawing styles. So he talks about, Schmiel Schmeisner, who's parodying Schmiel Schmabner by Schmel Schmap, who's parodying Schick Schmacy by Schmester Schmool. But this is very important and appropriate because Harvey Kurtzman, who at the time was doing these one-page filler comics, then goes on to start, eventually, Mad, which would go on to parody everything, including a lot of other comic books and comic strips, most effectively drawn by the artist Will Elder, whose work we see here. What's really interesting about Mad, too, is that, as we'll see, it sort of follows your arc a little bit in the sense that Kurtzman and his collaborators at Mad started out just parodying comic book and comic strip genres, and then realized it worked a lot better to actually parody the actual comics themselves and make it look like that. So there's a ton of this stuff. So you've got, Mickey Rodent and Poop Eye, and it goes, Melvin of the Apes and so on, and it goes on, as well as parodies of a lot of classical literature like Treasure Island.
Yes.